All right. I am calling the 6:30 public hearing to order. This is a resolution directing the town manager to submit an automated traffic enforcement safety device plan to the Connecticut Department of Transportation for approval, and we will begin by roll call. Mr.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Councilor Harris.
Here.
Councilor Lazarus.
Here.
Councilor Lyons.
Here.
Councilor McGinnis.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Poland.
Here.
Councilor Walters.
Here.
Councilor Wang.
Here.
Councilor Winograd.
Present.
All present.
Wow, 3 W's. Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. All right, we will begin with the presentation. Mr. Ledwith, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Members of the Town Council, colleagues, residents of West Hartford. For the record, I'm Rick Ledwith, Town Manager. Tonight's public hearing concerns a resolution directing the Town Manager to submit the town's automated traffic enforcement safety device plan to the state of Connecticut and Federal Highway Administration for their review and approval. We appreciate the council's consideration of this matter and the continued engagement of our residents through this process. This program is a direct extension of the town's Vision Zero commitment, our shared goal to eliminate all traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries by focusing on safer streets, safer speeds, and safer behaviors. Excessive speed remains one of the most consistent factors in serious crashes, and addressing it is a necessary component of protecting pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers alike, particularly in areas with a history of speeding and crashes. Importantly, this plan reflects extensive public input. Prior to bringing this resolution forward, the town hosted 2 public information sessions to explain the program and outline where and how the cameras would be used, and hear questions and concerns from residents. This program has been before our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee a couple of times, which has helped shape the framework before you this evening. That feedback has reinforced the importance of transparency and an emphasis on safety rather than revenue. So as a quick introduction, I want to introduce our project team with us this evening. So we have our Assistant Police Chief, ACT, as we like to refer to him. Chief Riddick is running a civilian police review board across the parking lot, but the police have been actively involved all the way through this process. We have our Director of Community Development, Dwayne Martin. We have our engineer assigned to the project in all Vision Zero projects, Parker Sorensen. And then we have our consultant, Dan Amstutz from VHB, who's been involved from the get-go as well. And we have our town engineer, Greg Summer, who's watching from home, but very much a part of what we have been doing. And together, we've been working for the better part of a year to develop a comprehensive and thoughtful plan to improve traffic safety here in West Hartford. So why speed management cameras? High vehicle speeds pose a serious risk to pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers alike. The data is clear. Speed is a leading factor in fatal and serious injury crashes. West Hartford is committed to the principle that traffic deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable and preventable. That's why we're proposing the implementation of a speed management camera program as part of our Vision Zero strategy. Studies show that automated enforcement can reduce fatal and serious injury crashes by up to 40% and significantly decrease excessive speeding. These devices are proven tools to encourage safer driving behavior. So in terms of program overview, the foundation of this initiative is House Bill 5917, which was signed into law in June of 2023, which authorizes the use of speed and red light running cameras in specific locations. Traffic signals, school zones, pedestrian safety zones, as well as other designated areas. These devices will record violations, capturing license plate data, time, date, and location. And thanks to the federal Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, West Hartford will launch an 18-month pilot program with speed management cameras at approximately 15 locations starting in mid-2026. Additionally, we've secured a second Safe Streets for All grant, which will support an 18-month pilot program for an automated red light enforcement program. The grant is now executed, and the project will begin soon for the red light running camera program, but that will be subject to the same process that we just went through with the speed enforcement cameras. So that will include public meetings, as well as adopting a resolution similar to what we hope to do this evening. Requirements for implementation starts with the town ordinance, and you recall that we adopted that ordinance back in April of 2025, which included a public hearing. The automatic traffic enforcement safety device plan will include a public hearing, which is happening this evening, approval from town council following the public hearing later this evening, and then we will send it off to review and approval by the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Office of the State Traffic Administration, and then ultimately off to, as we've discussed, it is a federal grant, so we will require Federal Highway Administration approval and the National Environment Policy Act documentation. As I mentioned, the Town Council adopted this ordinance allowing the use of ATESDs on April 8th, consistent with requirements of the state law. And the ordinance, as I said, permits the use of both speed management cameras and red light running cameras. As we discussed during that process back in April, violations covered under the ordinance would include speeds in excess of 10 miles per hour or more over the speed limit, or failure to stop at a steady red traffic signal when we get to our red light program. Violations are municipal citations issued to the owner of the vehicle, not the driver, so very similar to parking tickets. And per state law, citations are not a moving violation and is not reflected on a driver's driving record. In terms of the review process, a West Hartford Police Department sworn officer or town employee designated by the local traffic authority will review and approve recorded images before issuing citations. Fines would involve $50 for the first violation and $75 for each subsequent violation within 1 year. A 30-day warning period will be in place before fines are issued for each camera location. So for example, we expect this program to go live sometime in mid-2026. We would roll the program out 30 days in advance of going live in terms of issuing violations, and we would notify the public that we were doing that, and we would be issuing warnings during that 30-day period. Online payment options will be available, and there will be a processing fee not to exceed $15 associated with each ticket. Citations are mailed to the vehicle owner's address that is on record at the Department of Motor Vehicle no later than 30 days after the vehicle's owner has been determined. In the case of motor vehicles registered in another state, the citations are mailed within the same time period and to the vehicle owner's address on the registration records of that state. Vehicle owners may appeal the fine within 10 days of receipt of the citation. We'll talk a little bit about the use of the funds, and as required by state law, funds collected from fines will be invested directly back into the West Hartford community by supporting transportation safety and mobility improvements, infrastructure enhancements, and then any costs associated with the automated enforcement program. So essentially, everything Vision Zero related, we expect to be using the funds to support our Vision Zero efforts as we move through the next several years. Vendor fees for installation, operation, or maintenance of the ATESD cannot be contingent on the number of citations issued or fines paid. So this is an opportunity to issue as many speeding tickets as possible to potentially increase the revenue that a vendor may receive. Again, we'll talk about the citations and violations and the ticketing process, but what is most important to us is improving the safety within our community. So we'll talk a little bit about privacy now, and I'll read through these bullets really quickly because I do think it's very important to discuss this in a little bit of detail. So no personally identifiable information shall be disclosed by the town or vendor to any person or entity, including any law enforcement unit, except where disclosure is made in connection with the charging, collection, and enforcement of the fines. No personally identifiable information shall be stored or retained by the town or a vendor unless the information is necessary for the charging, collection, and enforcement of the fines. The town or vendor shall destroy any personally identifiable information and other data that specifically identifies a motor vehicle and relates to a violation of the ordinance not later than 30 days after any fine is collected or the resolution of an appeal hearing, whichever is later. The town or vendor may retain the portion of personally identifiable information for the limited purpose of determining whether a person committed a second or subsequent violation of the ordinance. The town or vendor shall destroy any retained portion of personally identifiable information not later than 1 year after the date of such person's most recent violation. So the information obtained through this process can only be used to enforce the speeding violation. Can't be shared with anyone else, can only be used by us in the police department for enforcement of the speeding violation. So there are reporting requirements associated with this program.
I think we lost your mic.
Thank you so much. I did hit that by mistake. State law and Safe Street for All grant agreement both require reporting to measure effectiveness of ATSDs. We have to report the number of violations, crash data at each ATSD site, and at similar location without ATESD. We have to report the number of hearings requested and the results of those hearings. And we will disclose the amount of revenue from fines and fees, as well as the percentage of fines collected from residents and non-residents. We will report the cost to the town of West Hartford to use this particular program. And then we will also list all engineering and educational measures undertaken by the town to improve safety townwide. State law does require signs at each of our camera locations. We are also required to notify navigation applications, so we will let Google Maps know and Waze know and Apple Maps, et cetera. And as I mentioned before, we're required to implement an awareness campaign 30 days prior to camera operation. And the devices are recalibrated annually for accuracy, and that information on the calibration will be posted on our website at each location. So this, as we've discussed, is an 18-month pilot program, and the ATSD vendor contract will likely include an option to extend the speed management camera program by an additional 18 months for a total of 3 years if it is approved, if safety is improved, I'm sorry. And per state law 14-307E, ATESD plan is only valid for 3 years from the date the first device became operational. Continuing the program beyond 3 years will require the renewal of the ATESD plan, as well as a new public hearing and a new approval by the town council. So talk a little bit about the development process, which I know folks are aware of as well. So we did Our engineering team and consulting team conducted a townwide analysis to determine the locations for our 15 cameras. We have identified 20 locations. We will submit our plan to the state and to the Federal Highway Administration with those 15 locations plus an additional 5 in case one of those 15, for whatever reason, is rejected by the state. We'd have a backup for that site. We held 2 public information meetings. One was on July 30th of 2025. The second was September 3rd of 2025. And we, at the July 30th presentation, we presented information about our desire to move forward with this plan, as well as sought information from the public in terms of where our residents would like to see these cameras. And then in the September 3rd meeting, we actually provided an update to the community with where we had been kind of honed in on finalized locations for our plan. Since then, we have finalized all 15 locations, as I said, and we developed our plan, which has been online now for the last few weeks, and we will, pending council approval, submit that plan, as I said, to the state and to the Federal Highway Administration within the next couple of weeks. So I went ahead and skipped through and talked through all of those meetings already, being efficient. And at this point, I would like to turn things over to Dan from VHB, and Dan will take us through the last third of tonight's public hearing presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Town Manager. Again, my name is Daniel Amstutz. I'm from the consulting firm VHB, who is helping the town to determine the locations. We put together the ATESD plan for the town and did a lot of data crunching. So I'm just going to go over just a couple of slides talking about how we developed the locations that are on the ATESD plan. So you can see from the map here, we started by looking at all of the roads in West Hartford. We got data from the state, from the town as well, and put this into a map to understand the best places to put these speed management cameras. Looking at different data points such as speeding-related crashes, which is particularly important for the state, the traffic volumes along those roads. We got data from the police department on where they're already giving out speeding violations, and put those on the map and put those as part of our process as well. The town speed data, where people are already speeding, that was collected over the course of the year. Places where there's vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians, bicyclists, school children. So those school zones, around schools, pedestrian areas, the Vision Zero focus areas as well. And then, as was talked about during the public meetings, the public input and questions that we received from the public, not just the public meetings, but also through the Vision Zero email address. And what I want to get across, or the message, is this was a very data-intensive process, and this is very data-driven. So we were able to use this data to zero in on the locations where the speed cameras would be really be effective in reducing speeding through the town. And this map shows the locations where we chose the corridors, which we were looking at for where the speed cameras could go, and then the little icons that have a little camera on them show where we chose where the speed cameras should go within that corridor, trying to look at the best location based on topography and so on. But there are, as the town manager mentions, there are 15 primary locations and 5 alternate locations. So there's 20 locations in total that is in the ATESD plan. The idea being to give the town flexibility in case one of the top 15 or the main 15 locations is deemed infeasible by the vendor. Once you get to that point, there may be some issue of cellular service, or again topography, or other context-based reasons why one of the red locations may not work. But the intent is to put the cameras for this pilot at 15 of these locations, mainly starting with the red ones. And that just Also, there would be, again, these would be bi-directional cameras, so there'd be 2 at each location, 1, going each direction. And we'll show that on the next couple of slides, what is actually within the plan itself. So this is just a brief overview of what is in the plan. As mentioned, the full ATESD plan is on the website. It starts, with the cover sheet, and also has the ordinance as well as the Vision Zero plan as part of it. But for each of the locations themselves, we provide data that is, again, required by the state as part of their approval process, looking at things such as the speed of the roadway, the traffic data, the daily traffic, the people that are going over the speed limit. That's why the data from the town is very important. Looking at the land use context around it that would make it, have an impact, such as if there was a school or a park nearby, and also the police citation data for each of the locations. You can see on the right side that there is also the speeding related crashes. We provide that information to the state as well for their review. And for each location, we do have these images showing where the approximate location of the speed cameras would go. They're post-mounted, would be facing, the direction of traffic to view the license plate on the back of a person's vehicle as they're traveling by the speed camera. So this just gives you an idea of, again, just a concept of where they would go. And then this, as the final piece, is the concept plan, where we show, again, trying to not pinpoint at the engineering detail, but very close on where these would go within the corridor itself. And also, an important point is that there would be signage, there would be notification before each of the cameras. We have 2 signs approaching each of the cameras, one that has a speed limit, but also has a picture, has the sign that has the camera on it, and then another one as you get closer to the camera, so that as you're approaching, exactly where they are. So there's no surprise there. But so we provide these for each of the locations. Again, there's the 20 that we have within the plan, so that, again, you have flexibility as part of the placing the cameras. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. And this, as I hope you'll agree, represents a significant step in the direction of really changing the way we move through our community safer. And we believe we'll start the process as we have started it under Vision Zero and the engineering changes that we've made townwide, but starting to change the culture of how drivers move through our community. And this, in addition to our red light camera program that we will present to the council later in 2026, we believe will get us there and help make our community safer for everyone. So through you, Madam Mayor, we are happy to answer any questions that the council has or suggestions, and we'll take it from there. Our team is prepared to answer your questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate all the work that you have done to bring us to this point. And it's been a lot of work, effort, a lot of collection of data, a lot of coordination, and we really appreciate all the hard work that you have done. And Rick, Mr. Ledwith, thank you so much for your leadership on this. This has been again, it's been a long process, and we're really glad to be at this point right now. So I'm going to open it up to actually Tiffany, because Ms. McGinnis, why am I first name on tonight? I don't know. Ms. McGinnis, this has often been discussed in her committee, but not the only committee.
Thank you. And thank you, Rick, for the presentation, and thank you for the presentation. I had a couple questions. So a violation within a 1-year period, it would be a second violation if you get one during a 1-year period? Is that how that works?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor McGinnis's question, it would be, so if you receive a violation on, say, the camera goes live on July 1st and receive another one on September 1st, you would receive the higher amount violation.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
starts over, if it was July 1st that you got the first one, then it would start over June 30th, is that
Yeah, I believe that's.
how that works?
Parker?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, through you, Madam Mayor. So, yeah, essentially, if you go a year without any
Getting one?
violations, you
Yeah.
reset.
Okay.
We're going to delete the data, and we wouldn't even have any record of that violation older
Okay.
than a year.
Okay. And then my second question, you talked about the reporting that we have to do. What is the time frame of that? Is it quarterly? Is it monthly? How do we have to report that?
Annually or?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor. So, yeah, we have a couple of reporting requirements. So through the state, it's mostly annual reporting that
Okay.
is required by state law. We also have reporting requirements through the federal grant. So they may be at different intervals just because
Okay.
that's based on the kind of the grant calendar. And I will say, I think, every intention certainly to potentially talk about reporting in addition to that, to the extent possible.
And finally, do we know, we've talked about it in the past, the time frame for the approval, like, do we know what that's running from the federal government?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor, so as Rick mentioned, we have two approvals really necessary. The state, through the Office of the State Traffic Administration, they actually are, through Connecticut law, bound to, I think, a 30-day clock. Once they give us comments back, the clock could pause, but that's essentially the time frame for them. Through the Federal Highway Administration, the approval process is through the NEPA documentation. So a lot of that's already been completed from the VHB team, and we've already been in communication with the Federal Highway Administration on that. And we've actually just received communication this week. So we're hopeful that within a 30-day period from Federal Highway, but we'll see what
Okay.
Federal Highway lands.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Ms. Lazarus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I had a question about the 15 locations. Was consideration made for locations that could be improved for non-motorized travel? I believe that's on the plan for 2027. So given the 18-month pilot program, I want to know if those locations were considered when putting together the 15.
I think if I understand the question, there were locations that we looked at as potential for speed cameras, but working with the town staff, there were locations where they're already planning on making some improvements, so we moved away from there to other locations. So I think Sedgwick School, in front of Sedgwick School, was an example of one of them where we considered it, but since there's already being plans for improvements there, we moved out to a different location.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lazarus. Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, and I've got questions going to bounce on a little bit. I was kind of taking notes through the presentation. Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Mr. Town Manager. First of all, I want to thank you. I read the 100-plus page presentation this afternoon, and I like seeing things that are data-driven. It's very data-driven. I think you said this. I just want to make sure I understand this properly in terms of the data. You've obviously looked at the data ahead of time to decide where to go, where the highest risk areas are. We're going to do look-backs as well to see if that data improves over time, right? Okay, I thought you said that. I want to make sure I understood it correctly.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Lyons' question, yes. So we would, and we would report that actually back to the state as well as part of the reporting process. Do we report on safety?
Yeah, there's, as mentioned in the presentation, through you, Madam Mayor, number of violations, crash statistics, and just general information on the program operation. I'd just like to also point out, as part of the Vision Zero action plan, we've had our first annual report, going back to the beginning of this year. And we've also done more of a holistic view on the roadway network through town and see where we're going, where the areas are getting worse or better. So that's already being done as part of the Vision Zero program as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Second question, I'm not sure if I have to say this every time. If I don't, correct me. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Town Manager. Talked a little bit about arbitration. In the event, okay, so if I park in the center and fail to pay my parking ticket, I become a scofflaw. If you invoice me, send to collections, whatever the process is, next time I go to motor vehicle to renew my registration, it will not be renewed unless I pay the parking fee. And I'm getting nods. I thought that was the case. I'm getting nods. I know it parallels parking in terms of reporting, but does it parallel in terms of collections for in-state cars? Does it parallel?
Parker, you want to handle that, or ACT, or?
So, yeah, state law, so it's interesting, a little bit parallels with the parking program. If you go through the state law, the location where it doesn't parallel is that the parking appeals process and that the scofflaw component of going to DMV, that does not apply to this program.
If I may, Madam Mayor, so just playing this out, I accrue I'm run up Mountain Road one day, I'm in a bad mood, I pick up a couple of tickets, I get the invoices, I'm angry, I don't pay the tickets. I'm just trying to understand. So next time I go to register my car at DMV, they'll flag it, right?
They will not be flagged for
Okay.
non-payment to this program.
Okay, all right. Okay, terrific, thank you. Just trying to understand. In the case of out-of-state, obviously I think out-of-state enforcement is probably a little more of a tricky wicket. What happens in the event of a returned mail? I know it's kind of but you send something to New York and the mail comes back undeliverable in terms of a ticket.
I can take that one.
Okay, thank
Through
you.
you, Madam Mayor, Gina Verano, Deputy Corporation Counsel. So it is difficult. If it comes back in the mail, then that's evidence that the owner did not receive the citation, and that's pretty much where the collection ends, because the only way in which we can proceed is the owner must receive the citation. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes.
Nope, I understand. Thank you very, very much. And that's all I have for now, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Good question. Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question through you, Madam Mayor, about the grant money that we're receiving. I believe it was $800,000. I may be wrong on that, but
Approximately
Yeah.
800,000.
is that a one-time grant, meaning if we continue the program 18 months and 18 months, we're getting the one-time grant of $800,000?
It's a one-time grant through you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. And then I also had a question as to whether there's any sense of what the revenue potentially will be from, that would be collected from these devices.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Harris's question. So we're basing this off of information that we're gathering from communities that have started these programs. And, we believe within the first year of this program being up and running, it could be in the several millions of dollars for the first year. I do believe, as I mentioned, our goal is to change the culture of how folks move through our community. And once the program is up and running and we have time under our belt, and that culture change happens, that we would see those numbers decrease, ideally. As I said, this isn't about, for us, it's not about the revenue. There will be revenue generated, and that revenue will be very important to us to change the infrastructure within town and continue our Vision Zero efforts. But ideally, not realistic, I know, but a couple of years from now, I'd love to say we're not issuing any tickets because people are driving the speed limit and our community is safer. But so right now, it's all estimates, but it could be significant in the first year.
Okay. And then once we are no longer granted, meaning we've used our grant, what do you foresee, if you have any numbers as to what the program costs us to run yearly?
So we believe, even, my very optimistic view of not issuing, many tickets, but we will be, right? So we believe we'll be able to cover the cost of the program with that revenue in the future. We talked about a little bit in the presentation about our red light enforcement camera program as well. We received a second grant for that. So we will roll that grant, that program out in the same way we're rolling this one out, utilizing federal monies to roll that program out for the first 18 months. And then ideally, the revenue generated after that will cover our costs. So I think your question is, could there be a future impact to our taxpayer? I don't foresee that. I see us covering at least the baseline of our expenses with the revenue generated. But certainly, we'll be reporting this data out to the council periodically throughout the year. So we'll know where we stand from a revenue and expense standpoint every step of the way.
Okay. And then my last question is, I believe that you said, I just want to make sure I understand, that if the device is on one side of the road, it's picking up the traffic on both sides of the road? Or is that incorrect?
No, there would actually be two cameras. So one, they're each sort of across the street from one another. So there'll be sort of two posts with the cameras, and that's what we've will be. It's in the plan as well. You can see there's a concept plan and also the street view images showing approximate locations of where those two will be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Good questions. Let's see, Mr. Winograd.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just a little more detail on the vendor fees and the fines. So, what will happen with these? So, if you get the $50 fine, are we adding in the vendor fee? I know it's up to 15. Is that automatically added in, or is that just if you're paying online? I was wondering how that.
So the administration fee would be potentially covering the cost of the vendor who would be running the program for us. So we will go out to bid shortly to hire a company to work with us to install these cameras around town. And then based on that process, I think we would determine, if I'm not mistaken, what admin fee we would be adding on to the ticket price. So it would be a fixed cost up to $15 to cover the administration of the camera program.
And thank you. And just to add to that, so we get the 50 no matter what, or 75 vendor fees on top of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Wang, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much, everyone who's worked on this. I have a couple of questions regarding specific locations. Location 4, Farmington Avenue zipper merge. I just had some concerns about that. Is it wise to put a speed camera right at a zipper merge? There's a lot of jockeying for position. There's sometimes you have to hit the gas a little bit to get ahead of the person next to you. Could that add cognitive load or increase the risk of kind of a mishap, especially since we have sometimes unprotected pedestrians and cyclists on the shoulder? It seems like the last place where I would want to manage another issue.
So through you, Madam Mayor. So I know there's been some back and forth on this discussion, specifically internally. I think some of the context that we've had with VHB team, so there's actually a speed limit change further to the west that we wanted to be aware of and be away from, putting that right on the speed limit change. And then further to the east, obviously there's a significant grade challenge coming down into West Hartford. So thought about the fairness, so to speak, of putting that at the bottom of a hill. So that's kind of where that landed from internal discussions with the VHB team.
Yeah, it just strikes me as a potentially risky location. It's just you're already managing a lot, you know. And again, sometimes, especially when the weather's nice, you really do have quite a bit of pedestrian traffic on that unprotected shoulder. Another question, thank you. Another question is, and including this site and several of the sites, up to 50, even 70% of vehicles, according to your data, sometimes are going to be in violation. For example, at Flatbush, 50 to 70% of cars are going to get a ticket. Is that fair to drivers? And do we need to consider some kind of traffic calming or something so that we're not ticketing half the people that come through that stretch of road? You know, we should encourage, I think, you know, reasonable speeds and then ticket the outliers. In some cases, it looks like we're ticketing half or even 70% of people coming through there.
I'll take that through you, Madam Mayor. That area is heavily congested, and we have the busway, we have the traffic going up over the bridge, and we'd have a lot of pedestrian traffic through there. So we have to, and we have some cameras in the area for crashes. We have a lot of crashes there. It almost seems like a lot of people are just in a rush through that area. And the whole purpose of what we're doing through Vision Zero and this program is to just, everybody's got to cool it down a little bit, slow down, and essentially we're trying to change the culture through there. But there's an awful lot of traffic going through it, as you indicated. We have to do something. We have pedestrians who are walking between cars, and the light is not telling them to walk. We have cars that are not stopping for the red lights. So it's a heavily congested area. Not only that, besides the traffic activity and the pedestrian traffic activity, I hate to say it, we do have a great deal of crime there as well. So all of this is coming together. So we actually need the enforcement there while we're doing the other components of this to try to keep people safe. People just literally walk across into the traffic, and they will get hit by a car. We can't stop that. They have a green light. But the thing is, at the end of the day, there are crosswalks, and a lot of people aren't using the crosswalks either. So we're just trying to get a handle on that area right there. And I think they'll agree that we have a lot going on there.
Thank you. I completely agree. There's a lot going on. Just specifically, I guess what I'm asking is, if 50 to 70% of people are going to get ticketed, do we need to also consider redesigning the road, whether that's through quick builds or other methods? And I noticed that at many locations. For example, you know, on the New Britain Avenue, one of the sites, the downhill has much higher speeding than the uphill. So, for example, maybe we consider things like those bars, you know, the bars that you guys did at Tunxus that seem to be quite effective. Again, just making it seem fair for drivers so that it's not a wide open road that encourages speeding and then we nail 70% of them. But to couple the intervention with other interventions so that it feels fair for drivers. Is that something that you guys are discussing, acknowledging that quite a few of these sites are state roads?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So certainly that's part of our overall Vision Zero efforts townwide. We are not going to stop doing what we're doing from a quick build standpoint, traffic calming standpoint, anything we can do townwide to continue to, from an engineering standpoint, change the way you're moving through our town. But certainly speeder, you know, people that are driving 50, 60, 70% over the speed limit, we need to change that. And enforcement's part of that. So it's enforcement, engineering, education, which, you know, we've talked a lot about. I think enforcement will help, in addition to the changes from an engineering standpoint. So yeah, to answer your question specifically, we would continue to look at other ways to slow folks down in addition to this.
Thank you. I have one last question. Location 14, North Main. Why is the speed limit different northbound and southbound? And could this be confusing for motorists?
So I'll take that through you, Madam Mayor. So that's right in front of the American School for the Deaf. So there is a 30 mile per hour zone to the south, and there's a 35 mile per hour zone to the north. So as we're going through the data, not surprisingly, there's a lot of data points that were pointing to that area with the driveway and whatnot. So the idea is that, the northbound approach is still and will be maintained as a 30 throughout that speed zone. So you've been through a 30 zone right up into that point. Coming southbound, even though there's the change in speed limit was right in that area, wouldn't be quite, honestly, to be fair, going southbound to go right from a 35 to 30 enforcement. So that's the reason that is posted at 35 southbound. So whether it's confusing, southbound, northbound, you're not going to see the opposing directions of signage. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Wang. Okay, Ms. Pullen, do you have any questions? Okay, a lot of good questions and a few that I had. So for state roads, for any of the locations that are on state roads, New Britain Avenue, Simsbury Road, is there any additional, Albany, obviously. Is there any additional, though this won't be, this would be approved through the state anyway, but is there anything, anything unique about that at all that we should be aware of? It's just.
Yeah, so to you, Madam Mayor, so yes, there is an additional approval. It's just through the district, it's an encroachment permit, just as if we were to put up, go to the state to put up a sign of some sort. So by and large, OSTA will handle the substantive, the plan as a whole. And then once we get a vendor on, they'll be up for further engineering design and getting those encroachment permits.
Thank you. So what would be, is it just Albany, New Britain, and Farmington? North Main too?
To you, North Main in front of Hall High School as well.
Right.
Sorry. I have it on my back here.
Okay. All right. But you don't think that they would change the locations?
Our discussions with OSA have been, very positive. They're looking to support, whatever the town decides in terms of this program and making that happen on the state routes as well.
Thank you. All right. Just going around one more time. Any other questions? Okay. We would like to see if there are any public comments. Mr. Clerk, have you received any comments?
Madam Mayor, I have not received any public comments.
Okay. Anybody signed up?
Madam Mayor, no one has signed up to speak?
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this public hearing? Wow. Okay. Very good. All right. Going around one more time, counselors? Okay. Anything in closing, Mr. Ledwith?
No, we appreciate your consideration and certainly your input all along through this process. As I said earlier, I think it is a significant move in the right direction in terms of changing the culture within our town and having drivers move through town slower, obeying speed limits and red lights, I think will lead us to achieving Vision Zero sooner than 2033, in addition to all of the other engineering type changes that we will facilitate over the coming years. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, I'm closing this public hearing. Thank you all so much. And we are going to, when you're free, to start the next public hearing. So thank you again very much. Oh, and while Mr. Martin is packing up, I'm just going to congratulate him on 20 years of service.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Okay. I will call the 7. You okay, Mr. David? All set? Okay. All right. Calling the 7 p.m. Public hearing to order. This is the application of 2558 Albany Avenue, LLC, owner of 2558 Albany Avenue, for an amendment to existing Special Development District, SDD 23. The application seeks to amend the approved plan by demolishing the existing building, removing existing vegetation, and regrading in the entirety of the site for future development opportunity. We'll begin with roll call. Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Attendance purposes, Mayor Cantor,
Here.
Counselor Harris,
Here.
Counselor Lazarus,
Present.
Counselor Lyons,
Here.
Counselor McGinnis,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Poland,
Here.
Counselor Walters,
Here.
Counselor Wang,
Here.
Counselor Winograd.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. All right, we will begin with a presentation, and if you can introduce yourselves and go right ahead.
Okay, good evening. For the record, my name's Megan Hope. I'm an attorney with Alter, Pearson, and Hope in Glastonbury, and I'm here tonight with Paul Vitaliano. He's our professional engineer with VHB. We represent 2558 Albany Avenue, LLC, who's the property owner for 2558 Albany Avenue. The representative for the owner was very sick tonight, so I told him to stay home. But he otherwise would have been here. He said he would sit in the back. I think he's watching on YouTube. So we will be texting with him, but I think Paul and I should be able to handle any questions. We've submitted an application for an amendment to SDD number 23. That's a lot that's situated on the north side of Albany Avenue. I have it highlighted in yellow on the screen in front of you. It's a little over an acre in size. And if you're familiar with the site, it's located just to the west of the Staples Center. It has an office building on it that was formerly a house. We're proposing to remove the existing structure. When we originally filed the application, we were proposing to remove the existing structure, also regrade the site, take down all the vegetation, but we have since limited the scope of the application. So all we're looking for tonight is just limited to removing the structure, and we'll explain that further as we proceed. So this is a view of the surrounding area. I know everyone is familiar with it. On the right side of your screen, we have North Main Street that travels north-south. Our site, again, highlighted in yellow, 2558 Albany Avenue, located on the north side of the street, just adjacent to the Staples Plaza. And obviously, there's other commercial uses that exist to the east side of the site and to the southeast. And then we have primarily residential uses to the north with the homes on Farmstead Lane. We have the Woodbury condos, which are over to the left side of your screen. And then we have mostly residential houses on the other side of Albany Avenue and Flag Road to the south side of the site. This is just a map of zoning in the area. Our site is an SDD, obviously, with the underlying zone of BO, which is the office district. Everything to the east is essentially an SDD, mostly with an underlying zone of BG, which permits retail. That's one of the main differences with the BO zone. And then everything to the north and to the west is all residential, pretty much all in the R13 zoning district. So back in 1981, the town council approved the initial SCD for this site. It changed the zone from R13 to BO and then to SDD. One of the conditions of that approval was that the residential appearance of the house would remain when it was converted to an office. So we are obviously asking for the building to come down. So I'm also asking for that condition to be released because it's obviously in conflict with our request. So again, this is just a closer in view of the site. I've highlighted that in red. To the right side of your screen is the Staples building itself. Albany Avenue is to the bottom of your screen. The house was converted to an office in 1981, was leased out from 1981 to various office users. There was an accountant in there for a while. We had doctors as well. But since 2005, we have not had any tenants. It's been extensively marketed. And the comments that we've received is that they haven't liked the right in, right out turning movement for the site. If you notice on the aerial, there is a raised median in Albany Avenue in this area. I sort of highlighted that with the yellow there, but that's been a big detractor in us being able to get tenants. The other point I wanted to point out is the topography changes. Obviously, as you head west on Albany Avenue, it's rising, and in our site in particular, the finished floor area of that existing office building is 10 feet higher than Albany Avenue. So the road is rising, but the site is rising as well. The finished floor of this house or this office building is 20 feet higher than the Staples. So everything is rising, which was something that potential tenants weren't interested in. And also, obviously, the antiquated layout of the house was also a detractor. So we've been unable to rent it, and our plan is to try and make the site more attractive for somebody to come in redevelopment. We see this plan as sort of an interim approval. Eventually, we would like to we would come back with something more complex, a typical STD development plan that's more comprehensive. We had originally come in with plans to regrade the site and essentially connect it to the Staples Plaza. But we got, I would say, strong encouragement from the planning staff to sort of pause on that until we really knew what the end user was. So that's why we withdrew the application for the STD next door and proceeded with this. But ideally, in the future, what we would like to do is to find a way to connect the 2558 Albany Avenue parcel with the Staples parcel so that they have access out to the light with Albany and Flag and over to the other plaza. So this is our demolition plan that we submitted. Highlighted in green on the plan is the limits of disturbance. So as you can see, we're very limited into where we're going to be doing anything really on the site. It's around really where those existing structures are. So we have the house, which is that main green circle in the center, and then there's a couple accessory structures in that northeast corner that would come down. 2 utility connections need to be disconnected from the street. Our sewer and our electrical, the gas was already disconnected and stubbed, so that's not an issue. But all the existing vegetation would remain, the existing curb cut, the pavement, that would all stay. We're just trying to essentially do a light touch, take the building down, and leave it for now. The building, after it gets demolished, would be backfilled with clean material. There would be rock put on top, so there wouldn't be any erosion or anything like that. But the town engineer has extensively reviewed Paul's erosion and sedimentation control plans. And obviously, the demolition itself is overseen by the building department. We have to go through a process with them where we provide materials that any asbestos has been abated by a licensed contractor. So that's all overseen by the building department from the town hall. And then we did conduct neighborhood outreach. Greg Nanny, who represents the applicant, when we originally filed the application for both parcels, went out and met with the immediate neighbors to the north and to the west. Once we revised the application again, he went back out and talked with them, and then we did have a neighborhood meeting on December 3rd. We sent out notices to everybody within 500 feet, which was about 71 property owners. We had 8 people show up. at the meeting. And most of the questions really related to the next phase, how tall will the light poles be? Would the building be in the front or the parking in the back? So I explained the SCD process and also explained that any changes we make have to go back through the same process. So it gets reviewed by DRAC. We have to go to TP&Z for a recommendation. We come here, obviously, for a public hearing. And there will also be additional outreach. So it was helpful because we understood what some of the comments are, what things are going to be looking for, buffering, and I think understanding really what the use is going to be and how it's going to tie into the Staples Plaza. So it was helpful, but I think we were able to answer most of the questions, but they really were mostly focused on that next phase. Nobody seemed to be that upset about taking the building down at this point. So I think that wraps it up. Paul and I are happy to answer any questions that you or the public has.
Thank you so much, Attorney Hope. I have a really quick, what year was the house built, do you know?
We believe, so there's conflicting data on that. The field card says it was built in 1900, but when I talked to the tax assessor, what they said is when the houses get too old, they start raising the age because otherwise it's valued lower. So we think it's sometime in the 1800s. We did have a consultant look at the house to see if it had any historical significance as far as who owned it or who used it, any historical events, and it didn't. And we did have that reviewed by the state as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to open it up. Actually, I'm going to go to the public comment first. Mr. Davidoff, did you receive any comments on this?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and we'll just check the sign-up sheet.
Madam Mayor, no one signed up to speak.
Of course, you've checked it already. Perfect. All right, is there anybody that would like to speak to this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it up to the town council. Any questions or comments from members of the council? Oh, Ms. Harris.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I had a question regarding this, I guess, traffic that potentially could be coming from this property. You mentioned about opening up, because the way the driveway seems to come right out to Albany Avenue, would seem to me a little bit problematic if you had any significant amount of traffic eventually coming out of that property. So what is the likelihood that you could actually open up the property into the Staples parking lot? Is that something Staples would actually agree to?
Yeah, and just to be clear, 2558 Albany Avenue and 2550 Albany Avenue they're in different LLCs, but they're owned by the same people. So we have agreement there because it's the same guy, Mr. Gerson. So that's not an issue. And Paul, I don't know if you want to explain maybe. We did look at what it would look like to connect them. Paul can explain that.
Sure. Once again, Paul Vitaliano from VHB. I've looked at this site for probably the last 15 years for Mr. Nanny and Mr. Gerson. It's obviously a desirable area, as you're all aware, and we've looked at multiple iterations of this for multiple users and different kinds of layouts. And that's the long way of getting to answering your question of we're confident that any significant development that would happen in this site would have to be connected to the Staples Plaza to both utilize the traffic signal at the main entrance and also because we can't be restricted to just a right in, right out that's there now. So we're fairly confident we would not be reusing the same curb cut for any future development. I'm sorry, say that again?
Can you put your mic on? Thank you.
I'm sorry, you said you're fairly confident what?
That we would not be using that same curb cut for any kind of future development.
Yeah, and I think when we had looked at it, Paul, we still had a right out, but more on the west side of the property, so that moved further, right?
Yeah, we would definitely take advantage of having some secondary access or egress out of this property. That's just kind of good planning and something that we expect the town and even the DOT would ask. But if we did have a right in, right out from this, it would most likely be further west at the other end of the property as opposed to where it is now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. And you said it's an acre?
Yeah, a little over an acre.
Okay. And what's the square footage of the house? Do you know?
The footprint is about 2,389 square feet. I think the second floor is a little bit smaller.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions from the council? Okay. All right. Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. It looks like in the community outreach report that you indicated the demolition would take about a week. What week would you target? Would it be sometime, assuming this is approved by the council, would it be sometime soon, or are you looking to wait until the spring? What's your time frame?
No, I think it could definitely happen sometime soon. Obviously, after approval, we need to finalize the STD to make it legal with recording. That takes usually a month or so, something like that. But I think after that, we would be able to proceed to take the building down. We'd have to get the demo permit issued first, so I feel like that would take at least 30 days. But I think we would not need to necessarily wait to spring. It's not weather related.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pullen. Anything else? All right, seeing no, I will read into the record letter dated November 26, 2025, from Town Plan and Zoning Commission recommending approval. Letter dated November 26, 2025, from Design Review Advisory Committee recommending approval. And with that, we will close the public hearing. And we will begin our council meeting in, how about 10 minutes? Is that reasonable? Okay, 7:50. Thank you. 1 sec, I actually have to pull something up. Okay. Okay. Okay, calling the Wednesday, December 17th, 2025 Town Council meeting to order at 7:30 PM. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what we routinely do, okay? A roll call, Mr. Davidoff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Mayor Cantor.
Here.
Counselor Harris.
Here.
Counselor Lazarus.
Present.
Counselor Lyons.
Here?
Counselor McGinnis.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Pullen.
Here.
Counselor Walters.
Here.
Counselor Wang.
Here.
Counselor Winograd.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Before we begin tonight's council meeting, I'm going to take a point of privilege to take a moment to acknowledge the deeply troubling weekend that we had weighing on many, many people's minds. First, our hearts are with Brown University community and the city of Providence. As a UConn trustee, this is something that you worry about quite dramatically all the time. But following the tragic shooting, a college campus should be a place of learning, curiosity, and opportunity, and not fear. Sadly, this violence is part of a broader and heartbreaking reality in the United States, where mass shootings continue to impact too many communities and scar them forever, and all the witnesses. I actually was hearing several survivors of Parkland and other school shootings that experienced this again. And they said, you can never say never again. I want to express our solidarity with Providence Mayor Brett Smiley, the city leaders, the first responders, as they support a community in mourning. We grieve the lives lost and hold close all those who are affected. And we really hope they catch the person guilty of this. And second, I want to speak to the terror directed at the Jewish community in Australia, where a Hanukkah gathering was targeted in an act of anti-Semitic violence, killing 15 people, including a Holocaust survivor and a rabbi, and a 10-year-old Matilda Britvan, whose parents said, please say her name. Over 50 people were wounded. In the midst of that horror, we saw incredibly extraordinary courage. Praise has poured in for Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a bystander, seen disarming a gunman in a separate video. He actually was shot in return. He did not shoot he was holding the gun. I don't know if anyone saw the video. He was holding the gun and did not shoot the person who had been shooting and was pointing it at the gun, and then the gunman had another gun and shot him. And so he was visited on Tuesday by the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and he was incredibly they started actually a crowdfunding campaign and raised $1.3 million in a day. And Boris and Sophia Gurman were long time, I don't know if anyone saw the video of this either, were longtime Bondi locals who loved their community and the life they had built there. He was wearing like this lilac jacket, and I think they were maybe in their 70s, and they were trying to get the gunman and take the gun and putting themselves in complete harm's way. And so they were talking on Australian TV that they had they were so respected. They were people of deep kindness, quiet strength, unwavering care for each other, devoted to their family and to each other. Their absence has left a void that cannot be filled. The family said that the couple's selfless act, exactly who those people were. They instinctively chose to help, even at great personal risk. And while nothing can lessen the pain of the loss, the family said, we feel immense pride in their courage and humanity. We stand in solidarity with the Jewish community in Australia and everywhere. Anti-Semitism has no place in our world. Here in West Hartford, we know these threats are real. When we gathered as a community for the first night of Hanukkah, and I'll say almost everybody was there, we worked closely with our public safety professionals and dedicated resources to ensure the event was safe, welcoming, and prepared. I'm deeply grateful to our police and fire departments and public works for their vigilance, professionalism, and care. They really prepared in extraordinary ways, and we're really grateful. And finally, many of us were shaken by the devastating and tragic news involving the stabbing of Rob and Michelle Reiner by their son. Rob Reiner was an American icon whose work has shaped generations. He was created beloved cultural touchstones like The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, and Stand By Me, shaped generations with humor and heart, while also transitioning from iconic actor to a respected director and passionate activist for children's rights and democracy, using his platform for significant social change. People that knew Rob and Michelle said they remember them as generous, kind, and deeply committed to family, community, and the dignity of others. They were people of warmth and integrity who spent their lives lifting others up and using their voices to make the world more humane. Friends and colleagues described them as loving partners, devoted parents, citizens who believe deeply in compassion and inclusion. Their legacy is not defined by noise or cruelty, but by the countless lives they touched through kindness, creativity, and moral courage. This heartbreaking situation involving a troubled family member and addiction is a reminder of the quiet struggles so many families face and the devastating consequences when struggles turn tragic. To anyone in our community who is feeling anxious, targeted, or unsettled by these events, you are not alone. We will continue to lead with compassion, stand against hate, and do everything in our power to keep West Hartford safe and united. Thank you all. And we'll just take a 30 seconds of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, Ms. Pullen, a hard transition, but okay. Actually, public forum, Mr. Dodge. Nobody has signed up to speak. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to something on the agenda that was not the subject of a public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we will now go to consent calendar. Ms. Pullen, number 4.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without objection, I move that items 5A through 5C, 7I through 7U, 10A, and 10B are placed on the consent calendar.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the items are placed on consent. Ms. Pullen?
I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now go to number 6, unfinished business. Ms. Pullen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution directing the town manager to submit an automated traffic enforcement safety device plan to the Connecticut Department of Transportation for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith, I don't know if you want to just do a brief little summary.
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Thank you. So this resolution was the subject of a public hearing earlier this evening. And by way of quick summary, the town received a Safe Streets for All grant going back well over 18 months now to develop a speed enforcement camera program. And we spent the better part of the last year first developing an ordinance. That was before the council back in April of 2025, adopting an ordinance to implement a speed enforcement and red light running camera program. And during that same time period, our engineering team was working with our consultants, gathering data, studying speeds around town, and identifying potential locations to implement the speed enforcement camera program. We held 2 public meetings this summer and gathered input from our community in terms of whether they were receptive to this type of program, and if so, where would they like to see cameras set up throughout town. And then in the second public meeting, we came back to our community with 15 locations that we had identified, in addition with an additional 5 to be submitted to the state for approval. So we've finalized our ATESD plan, presented it to our Community Planning and Economic Development Committee on 2 separate occasions. And tonight's public hearing was the final ATESD plan with the 15 locations, with an additional 5 for approval. So we'll submit, should the council adopt this resolution tonight, we would happily submit this plan to the State Department of Transportation for their approval, as well as the Federal Highway Administration for their approval. And we would look to go out to bid to hire a vendor in, over the next month or so. And it would be our goal to have this plan up and running by mid-2026.
Thank you very much, Ms. Oliver. That was a very good summary of everything. I appreciate that. You've been working on it a long time. We have discussed this in multiple committees, but CPED, Community Planning and Economic Development, has sort of been the collector of it. So I'm just going to turn to Ms. McGinnis to sort of, say your input, and then we can go around the table as people.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So it feels like that's been a long time coming. It hasn't actually been as long as it feels like, but we've talked about this a lot. As part of Vision Zero, we can do a lot of things to the roads, but if people continue to speed, we're still going to have an issue. And anyone that rides with me now knows I drive pretty slow. Because I tried not to speed, but it is very easy to do that without even realizing it. And it's my hope that when we have these cameras in place, that it will make people realize, hey, when I'm driving down Mountain Road, when I'm driving down Fern, I'm speeding. And I think, that's very important. I'm hopeful that this will have the effect that, I don't know that it'll have the effect you're really hoping for, which is no tickets, but I hope that over time, the number of citations will significantly decrease. And I will be supporting this. I think it is good for the community. I think it is good for safety of everyone on the roads, whether it be car, pedestrian, or cyclist. And I hope that everyone else will support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. Anybody else would like that? Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't bear the lead. I am going to be supporting it. I think, nothing is perfect, but I think the work that's gone into this program from the town manager and staff is exemplary. And I am excited to see it roll out. This is anecdotal, but I feel like since COVID, people have been driving worse. Now, again, I don't have any data to support that. It's an opinion. But I really hope this is going to help a lot, and I really feel like it's going to help a lot. So I'm very excited. I'm going to let my fellow counselor address some of the equity issues. I think there may be some challenges on the collection side that maybe we could then reapproach our delegation to try to tighten. But, everything can be improved, but I think we're off to a really great start. So thank you, Mr. Town Manager, and I will be supporting.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Mr. Wang?
Thank you. I also will be supporting this. Our unsafe roads have been too big of a problem for the last several years. We've lost too many of our fellow citizens. I'm a father of two. One of my biggest concerns is always the road safety. We have to cross Sedgwick to get to school, and speeding as well as red light running are some of our biggest concerns. They're some of the biggest concerns of other fellow parents. So I'm happy to support this. My one concern, which I did make clear during the public hearing, is that when I see some of the data showing that, for example, we are going to theoretically be ticketing up to 50 or even 70% on some of these, admittedly, preliminary or at least proposed sites. They're not finalized yet, but proposed sites. That we don't want it. I really would like to advocate for this to not feel unsafe, or not unfair. I mean, unfair for motorists, because I would really advocate again for this type of intervention to be also paired with traffic calming, so that it does feel fair, and that we are ticketing the outliers and not ticketing pretty much everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Wang. Anybody else? Mr. Winograd?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. as I just stated, it feels like a very long time we've been pushing for this. And in fact, even before we were allowed to by the state, we were many of us were pushing the state to actually pass the bill that allowed this, because it was prohibited previously. And one thing that had been raised at the time were many concerns about privacy, civil rights issues that are, becoming even bigger now with other kinds of cameras. The flock cameras have been a major concern of a lot of people. These were difficult to pass because the state took a long time to get it right. And this legislation really protected privacy rights of people. Again, the comparison to a parking ticket is apt in the sense that it's also, again, no one feels a privacy violation if someone gives you a parking ticket. Because again, it's based on the car, information is not saved. These cameras are not looking at your face. Again, there are a lot of concerns. It's also where these are placed, which is also a major concern. So the legislation prohibits it from putting it all in one part of town. And neighborhoods that have, lower incomes, and often, certainly in some cities, more traffic would be natural places to put it. It ends up becoming an inequity issue. So our placement is also throughout town, and no part of town is being punished for this. And I think to Rick's points, and certainly in the presentation, this fits in with the Vision Zero so perfectly, and there's only one part of it. So the Vision Zero includes the street calming issues, the lanes, the road diets, the very popular crosswalks that we're putting in all over town and that are expanding. So again, it's not a matter of this or that, it's this and that. And this is one more and that we're doing. I do want to address, Flatbush Avenue, listen, the fact that 70% of people are speeding in an area that has fields and a school is reason for more enforcement as far as I'm concerned. We actually do have traffic calming there. Fantastic new, we have the new crosswalk there, middle of that block. We do have other poles there. It actually has gotten quite a lot of attention. The fact that if it's still that kind of speeding, I think it's probably better since those are up, but that's exactly where we need this. And that is an area, yes, people speed, and hopefully, and the idea is that that numbers will go down. And we're not going to keep on getting 70%, because people will, in fact, respond to these tickets. Finally, the one thing I do want to add, and that has come up in other discussions about this, has to do with police resources. Everybody complains, it's a funny complaint, but, every time you see a speeder, wish there was an officer there. What this does is free up the police for other areas of town. So this does not mean we won't have enforcement elsewhere. It actually means we'll be able to have more enforcement in other places, as we don't have to have police in these particular places. These blocks will be the good ones, and now we'll have more enforcement elsewhere. So again, this is not a license to speed everywhere but in these 15 locations. In fact, and it's been discussed in public safety, that we will be able to, in fact, have even more enforcement in other parts of town. So for all those reasons, I do think this is a great achievement. It's, again, a long time coming in my mind, but I'm very glad that we're finally passing this, and I can't wait to see them. And of course, if I get a ticket, I'll come in and admit it and eat a little crow. But I'm, like Councilor McGinnis, I've been very careful and hopefully avoiding it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Ms. Harris, you want to? I don't know. You don't have to.
So I really just learned about this program in the last few weeks, because obviously I wasn't part of what was happening before. I know several people who were part of my religious community who were mowed down on the streets of West Hartford, and unfortunately did not survive. So I am definitely in favor of doing anything that are going to make the streets safer. As most of you probably aware, there's a fairly large Jewish community in town. Many of these people walk to synagogue both on Friday night and Saturday night, and several of those people, as I said previously, were hit by cars and did not survive. I am entirely in favor of anything that will make the streets safer, and this seems like something that is going to work towards that. The one concern I do have, which I raised in the public hearing, is in terms of the finances. And hopefully on one hand, we don't want people to be speeding, so we want to be not really collecting revenue. But on the flip side, I think we want revenue to at least support the program once the grant money is gone. I'm hoping that, it's not going to be a burden on the taxpayer, and that hopefully there will be enough revenue to support the program. But I will also be supporting the program, and hopefully it will help keep the streets and the community safer.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Sorry if I didn't say doctor. Sorry, I apologize for that. Okay, any other? Mr. Walters?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I'll keep it really brief because some of my colleagues here have already mentioned some of the points that I would like to make. But, really, I can't reiterate enough that it's a toolbox. Vision Zero is it has a toolbox, and this is but one tool in that box towards making our streets safer for everyone. And, I will say, like my colleague, Councilor Winograd, if we have areas of town where people are speeding at high numbers, we need to use all those tools, including citations, to slow them down. Presumably, hopefully, that we can do so. And, hopefully we will get to a point where people will know, West Hartford, I got to slow it down. And it does become part of the culture, as Town Manager Ledwith had mentioned. So I will be supporting this, and I hope I won't be one of the ones getting the ticket. I, too, have been taking it a little bit more careful, and I'll discuss with Ms. McGinnis about her driving later. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. Anybody else? Ms. Pullen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say this is a perfect example of the thoughtful deliberation that goes into the work that is done here in West Hartford. I know I'm not the only one around this table who was at some of the community meetings about this issue. We had robust input from people across town and thoughtful input. It wasn't just sort of like, oh, I hate this. It was, it was very thoughtful. And the idea that I think we're one of the only towns in the state who's trying to get grant money for this to offset the initial costs. I just think that we've gone about this in a really smart way, and on top of what Councilor Winograd mentioned as far as the state legislature really putting a lot of careful consideration into how the law was structured. So I want to thank everybody who was involved in that. I would have to agree that on Flatbush, if 70% of the people were speeding, that's the perfect place to put a camera. We've seen towns that have already adopted the traffic cameras, that their revenue for each camera goes down over time as people learn, oh, I need to be careful on this road. So that's sort of the goal, as Dr. Harris mentioned, is that we actually end up with fewer people speeding and fewer people getting tickets. So I would encourage everybody to support this, and again, just really want to thank those who were part of the process for developing the plan.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so I actually, a lot of great comments. I expected to see a room full. I think Mr. Ledwith did not think we would. There were more people at the Bear information session last night, and I really thought there'd be a lot of people here to talk to this, and both in support, but maybe some concern. But as to Deputy Mayor's point, there was so much work done, communication and the public comments, the sessions that were well attended and had some very, very good input. I think a lot, a lot did happen ahead of time. I do want to thank the state. I think they, again, with urging and from a lot of towns, post-COVID, right, there had been changes in driving behavior. There was data to show that. And so, and our police, our traffic people that were monitoring really did see a difference. So it was clear that something did need to happen, and the data nationally also expressed that. Town staff worked really hard once it was clear that we were going to be allowed to do this. And so I really want to thank our police department, and I want to thank Councilor Blanks for her work that happened in her committee, Public Safety. And I want to thank our Assistant Chief Tara, who is here tonight, and our Community Planning Director, Dwayne Martin, who is sort of the point person, and then Parker Sorensen, who has been really working so hard on our Vision Zero initiatives. He has really been such an important part of the team. And to VHB, the consultant, because although we do know our roads, we're not experts necessarily on this. And so having that consultation and that is really, really important. What the town manager has said all along, and this is something that we've talked about when we started Vision Zero, is changing the culture of driving in our town. Obviously, it will be helpful if it changes regionally and statewide and even, New England-wide and beyond. But at least within our town and what we can control is changing that culture. I have two sons who live in Chicago. My second son has had a number of tickets going through either red light, and he would say it was yellow, it wasn't red. He was rushing to teach a class or something, and and he says, but it does change your behavior. You don't zoom up to a light and stop short. And I do remember Corporation Counsel saying, we do have to be careful that people aren't rear-ended when stopping for red lights. But what has happened, and I've watched it in Chicago, is there is a change in the way people drive. And I feel more comfortable. He actually rides his bike a lot of places. I feel much more comfortable that he is riding his bike there, and also they walk a lot. So all of those things do help. Obviously, enforcement, education, engineering all go hand in hand. And the fact that the revenue from this will not only support the program, but invest in further safety engineering and further safety initiatives will be really, really important. I don't know if anybody saw Orange, Connecticut. I recently adopted this, an ordinance, and as well as New Haven, West Haven, Hampden, Milford, Washington, Connecticut was the first. And they saw a lot of activity. But what they said, and out of experience, was that they said people that graduate from the devices are aware of speeding and stopping in a way that they hadn't been before. And that's our hope, is that we make all of our roads safer for all users. So I will be supporting this. And again, I want to thank everybody that had a tremendous input into this. And it has felt like a long process because this was a tool that we were talking about from the very beginning. So with that, excuse me, I have to cough or sneeze or something. We will go to, so discussion, we have a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all. All right, we will go to B, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 6B is an application of Bishop's Plaza LLC, owner of 2550 Albany Avenue, for an amendment to existing Special Development District, SDD number 10, more commonly known as Bishop Plaza. The application seeks to amend the approved plan by proposing regarding drainage and landscaping modifications along the western property boundary in order to facilitate proposed changes to the adjacent Special Development District 23 at 2558 Albany Avenue. Without objection, I move that we receive the applicant's request to withdraw the application submitted to the town council by letter dated November 24, 2025, which letter is included with this agenda item.
Is there any objection? Okay, hearing no objection, the motion is adopted. C, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item C, application of 2558 Albany Avenue LLC, owner of 2558 Albany Avenue, for an amendment to existing Special Development District SDD number 23. The application seeks to amend the approved plan by demolishing the existing building, removing existing vegetation, and regrading the entirety of the site for future development opportunity. And I move to approve the application, subject to conditions.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Dodge, would you review the conditions of approval?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, being passed around is the proposed conditions of approval for this SDD amendment. Madam Mayor, these are a little bit lighter than the standard conditions that we normally would apply to a project like this. Obviously, as you heard during the public hearing, we are anticipating a more intensive development at some point, and at that point, we will probably adopt a more robust set of conditions. Madam Mayor, we have discussed these proposed conditions with the applicant, and they are acceptable to them. These would be in addition to the conditions that were adopted at the time of the original adoption of the SDD, with one exception. We are repealing, by the way, if anybody wants to wonder how maybe over-regulated we are now, the original conditions were 4 lines, where our standard conditions now are usually 3 to 4 pages long. But in any event, Madam Mayor, those original conditions really had to do with parking and traffic. The one condition that we're going to repeal here is condition 3, which is to keep the residential appearance of the property, which obviously will not be possible as is being demolished. The conditions that we are proposing, in addition to what was already adopted in 1981, are the establishment of a maintenance plan, which will have to be approved by the town manager or his designee and complied with by the applicant, a requirement that they maintain the landscaping and fencing on the property, a requirement, although it's always a requirement, so it's really a reminder of the construction noise ordinances that we have in town. And then finally, a new condition that we have been adding to most of our SDD projects, that the applicant conduct a pest assessment by a licensed pest control company prior to engaging in the project and submit those findings to the Health District for its review and approval. That summarizes the conditions of approval, Madam Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Are there questions on the conditions of approval? Okay. Seeing none, then we will go back to any discussion that people have, if there's any comments or questions. It's pretty straightforward. Ms. Harris.
I'm sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm curious if I'm reading this correctly. We're not including condition number 3. But is condition number 3 on this?
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Madam Mayor. Condition number 3 was a condition in the original conditions. We probably should have printed those out and shared them with you, but if you like, excuse me. If I can get my computer to work. I did have it on my computer. So I don't have the verbatim condition, but condition 3 in the original conditions essentially required the applicant to keep the residential appearance. So it's a basically house office right now. And this will repeal that original condition.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Harris. All right. Any comments or questions? All right. Again, this was the subject of a public hearing. I will say, I don't know, has anybody ever been in that house? So I did an accounting internship there many, many years ago. So it's kind of, and watching it deteriorate has been kind of sad. I do know that they worked hard to sell or lease, and it didn't work out. And I have received, I don't know if anybody else has received comments about shouldn't that house come down. I did walk out with one of the neighbors who said there's a fox den in the house, so I don't know where they'll end up, but anyway. So, all right. With that, this is can be a voice vote, right? Not a yes. This is a roll call?
This is an ordinance, Madam Mayor, so it's
That's it.
required to be
Okay.
a roll call vote.
Because this says voice vote. Okay. All right. Okay. So we will go to roll call. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Cantor,
Yes.
Counselor Harris,
Yes.
Counselor Lazarus,
Yes.
Counselor Lyons,
Yes.
Counselor McGinnis,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Poland,
Yes.
Counselor Walters,
Yes.
Counselor Wang,
Yes.
Counselor Winograd.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Thank you very much. Okay. And now we are on to new business. Yeah. It's number 7. Ms. Pullen.
Uh-oh. I lost the fuzzy thing. It's all good. Item 7A is another lengthy one. Application of Honeycomb Real Estate Partners, LLC, requesting a rezoning of approximately 2.49 acres at 230 Newington Road from an R6 one-family residence district zone and IG, General Industrial District Zone, to RM1, multifamily residence district zone with a special development district overlay for the redevelopment of the site into a new 54-unit, 100% for sale affordable housing multifamily residential community consisting of 6 two-story buildings, along with associated parking areas, storm drainage infrastructure, and landscaping. The development will qualify as assisted housing under General Statute Section 830G. Without objection, I move that we receive the application, refer to Town Plan and Zoning Commission, Design Review Advisory Commission, Capital Region Council for Governments, and the Town of Newington for the required review, and set for public hearing on January 27, 2026 at 6:45 p.m.
Thank you very much. Is there any objection? Okay, there being no objection, the motion is adopted. Section B, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item B is an ordinance permitting recreational vehicles as an accessory use in existing single-family residence districts. Application of Michael Servone seeking to Section 177-2 and Section 177-6C of the West Hartford zoning ordinances. Without objection, I move that we receive the ordinance, refer to Town Plan and Zoning Commission, Capital Region Council for Governments, and set for public hearing on January 27, 2026 at 6:30 p.m.
Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, the motion is adopted. We'll go to C, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt the resolution accepting donations to support programs and activities for America's 250 commemoration.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and this resolution was discussed in Deputy Mayor Poland's last Human and Community Services meeting that she chaired. But this resolution is actually our second resolution accepting donations to support activities and programs to support America 250. You'll recall back in September, we appropriated $5,800. And tonight we have an additional $1,811.56. $1,561 of that was from the Connecticut Humanities Give 250 fundraiser that the state ran. And the West Hartford Old Guard appropriated an additional $250 to that amount, bringing us to the total of $1,811. And this funding will help us develop and promote community programming that honors West Hartford's role in our nation's history, while creating opportunities for residents of all ages to engage in meaningful celebration and reflection throughout 2026, leading up to the July 4th holiday time period. So I will pause there, and through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ledwith. Ms. Pullen, do you want to, I don't know if you have anything further to say?
Sure, thank you. Mr. Town Manager pretty much covered it. Just a big thank you to everybody who donated to the Give 250 fundraiser through CT Humanities, and of course to the West Hartford Old Guard. And we're all looking forward to the different celebrations coming up in 2026.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? All right. If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Letter D, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution appropriating a grant awarded by the Connecticut Education Network to expand library Wi-Fi services.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution will appropriate a grant in the amount of $75,355.76 from the Connecticut Education Network to expand our library's existing Wi-Fi network to cover community spaces outside of our physical buildings. And also to implement EduRoam, which is a roaming access service for the International Research and Education community on the Wi-Fi network provided by the award. So access outside of the buildings would expand to the bus stop outside of the Noah Webster Library, would also expand to the bus stop outside Bishop's Corner Library, and then it would also expand out into the parking lot outside of the Faxon Library. So appreciate Laura Ermsher and her staff and working to and secure this grant from CEN.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ledwith. Ms. Pullen, again, most of these are from your committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just to add that this is ARPA funds from the U.S. Federal government, so I'm happy to have them come here to Connecticut and improve internet access for people in our community. I know that we all saw some stories during COVID of people who were sitting in library parking lots or in parking lots at McDonald's trying to get Wi-Fi so that they could do their homework or complete work. And I just think of that when I think about the way that we're going to be able to use these funds to expand Wi-Fi to people who are waiting at the bus stop or otherwise near a library but not necessarily in the library. So I would urge us all to support it.
Thank you, Ms. Pullen. Any other comments, questions? Ms. Lyons?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm all about equity, and this, I love this because I think it provides a very much needed service to a wider area, especially for those who maybe cannot afford it in their homes. So this one touches me. I really like it. We have a beautiful plaza outside the library, and I'm looking forward to driving by and seeing people out there just working in the sun come spring, if we can ever break this winter. But yeah, this is wonderful, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Any other? Okay, Ms. Harris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just curious, with the $75,000, how is that actually expended to provide the service? It seems like a lot of money to me just to provide internet service. Since my bill is about, I don't know, $200 a month. So I'm just curious how that works.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Harris, without knowing the specific details, I know the infrastructure to move routers and the hardware that would be involved in access points outside of the building must total $75,000. I know I signed this grant about a year ago and did read it at the time. So it made sense at the time and total, and certainly we received the award for $75,000. But I can certainly get that information for you.
Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Thank you, Mr. Ledwith.
Actually, through you, Madam Mayor, Dr. Harris, I think that part of it had to do with upgrading the actual infrastructure for the Wi-Fi to ensure that we could have the highest level of Wi-Fi to expand it beyond the brick and mortar of the library buildings, if that helps.
So just to respond to you, Councilor Poland, so this is more for infrastructure than it is for sort of monthly charges?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, I think it was both.
Okay.
That's my recollection, a little of each.
I seem to recall that there was an investment in the infrastructure to make it possible to have that good service. Anything else? All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Letter E, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the town manager to participate in the American Association of Retired Persons Network of Age-Friendly Communities.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This resolution will allow the town to formally participate in AARP's network of age-friendly communities and become part of a larger global network of communities committed to allowing all residents to live rewarding and productive lives. This initiative will provide the town with a framework that helps us plan thoughtfully for aging in place and remaining active in the community. It will give us access to resources and best practices to help ensure that West Hartford remains a place where people of all ages can thrive. After adoption of the resolution, Becky Sayers, our Senior Center Director, and her team will conduct a community needs assessment that will happen in year 1, and from there we will develop an action plan in year 2, and then implement that action plan in years 3, 4, and 5. We will keep our Human and Community Services Committee up to date on our progress as we move forward, but appreciate Becky Sayers and Adrian Billings-Smith for their leadership in pursuing this designation, and certainly the benefits that we will reap from being an age-friendly community as we move forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. And I just want to say that in Ms. McGinnis's, this actually, expands over multiple committees because it actually impacts public safety, but also it impacts Ms. McGinnis's CPED. We were talking about inventory and homes, as well as Ms. Pullen's committee. So it really is a broad kind of comprehensive look. And I really am grateful for the people that worked on this age-friendly community. I also want to give a little shout out to our Senior Citizen Advisory Commission for their work as well. So, Ms. Pullen, Ms. McGinnis, anything further?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the only thing I have to say is I do still kind of have an issue with 55 being the starting age. That
all right,
just seems a little young, but...
And who wanted to make it younger? Mr. Lyons, I think. I was like, whoa, that is harsh. Anyway, I can still do cartwheels, so I'm not ready yet. Anyway, all right. Any further discussion? Mr. Lyons.
Through you, Madam Mayor, happy early birthday, Councilor McGinnis.
Mine's sooner. Anyway, okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Letter F, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution appropriating grant funds awarded by the Connecticut Department of Transportation's Highway Safety Office under the Federal Highway Safety Program for the purpose of comprehensive DUI enforcement.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you. This resolution will appropriate a $59,000 grant that we received from the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide driving under the influence enforcement program from November 14th of 2025 through September 12th of 2026. This program will fund 45 two-officer 8-hour shifts between now and September, with a heavier concentration around holidays, Christmas, New Year's, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. The objectives of this type of program are certainly to reduce the number of crashes, injuries, and fatalities through increased enforcement, while also communicating to the public our increased enforcement so that drivers understand the risk and consequences of driving under the influence.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Any comments or questions? Mr. Walters? No? Okay.
I actually was, through you, Madam Mayor, I was actually just thinking yet again that, the work that our staff goes into to securing these grants is pretty amazing. We're always seem to be in receipt of grants. Every meeting we're talking about it. So I'm impressed by their work and hope it continues. And, the only other thing I would say is yet one more tool in the toolbox for Vision Zero. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. All right. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we've seen these work before, and sometimes there are articles in the paper about lots of, so just be aware and make sure that you don't drive under the influence, Okay, especially during this holiday season. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Letter G, Ms. Pullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution amending the fiscal year 24-25 general fund budget to fund transfers to the capital non-recurring expenditure fund, the risk management fund, the utility services fund, and to accrue for expenditures related to tax assessment appeals and contract settlements.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Lyman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're very fortunate to have another surplus for this past fiscal year. Our FY25 surplus ended up at $4,953,838. By way of comparison, our FY24 surplus was $9.6 million, and FY23 surplus was $8.4 million, so down slightly from the previous two fiscal years. The reason for the factors that led to this surplus are primarily three different factors. So our tax collections came in strong again this year. So we budget 99.1% as a collection rate. In fiscal year 25, we collected our collection rate was 99.5%. So that resulted in an additional $2.4 million in revenue over what we had budgeted. Development, as we've all talked about and discussed over the last couple of years, has been very significant town-wide, and this has resulted in an increase in both our building permit revenue and our fire plan reviews as a result of this development. So we collected an additional $1.2 million in building permit revenue and an additional $585,000 in fire plan reviews over our budgeted figures. And again, the town earned favorable interest rates, resulting in an additional $1.8 million over our budgeted amount that we budgeted for our short-term investment fund. And this has been a kind of a moving target over the last few years. It had risen pretty high over a couple of fiscal years ago, and we've been trying to monitor that as we move forward, and at budget time picked the number that we thought it would come in at, but it remained higher during fiscal year 25 than what we had budgeted, which is good, resulting in that additional $1.8 million. So we do have recommendations for how to appropriate the $4.9 million surplus. But we also want to take a moment to remind the council that in 2023, we had revised our fund balance policy following conversations that we had with Standard & Poor's, who's our rating agency. And as everyone knows, we've been a AAA rated community for a very long time, over 50 years. However, in comparing West Hartford as a AAA rated community to other AAA rated communities around the state, our fund balance has been historically lower than the average AAA fund balance around the state. So the average balance for S&P's average AAA rated community is 16%. So back in 2023, we committed to set aside a portion of our surplus to fund balance so that we can grow ours over time. At the time, we were at 9.1%. So we have, through the council's commitment to appropriating a portion of fund surplus to fund balance, we have increased our number from 9.1% to 10.1%. And this evening, we have some recommendations that would bring our fund balance up to 10.4% from that 10.1%. So S&P was very satisfied with our commitment to increasing that fund balance last year, and we know moving from 10.1 to 10.4 that they would that would be received very well as we go to sell bonds as we move into the spring, and ideally maintain that AAA rated status as we move forward. So as a summary of the $4.9 million appropriation, $2.2 million would go to fund balance, and that would bring our fund balance, as I said, to 10.4%. We would transfer $372,345 to our capital non-recurring expenditure fund to fund tasers for our police department, improvements to the police interview room, a new vehicle for our fire chief, as well as a new software program for our fire department, and then the purchase of a John Deere tractor system, as well as 2 attachments to that tractor for leisure services and the golf course. We would appropriate $900,000 to the risk management fund, and specifically our town health program. So last year, when the council adopted our budget, we reduced our appropriation to the risk management fund by $500,000 on budget night. This $500,000 would go back into the risk management fund to make up for that reduction. And then we would also appropriate $400,000 to next year's healthcare fund. We are anticipating, we do participate in the state partnership plan, as folks know, and we are anticipating an increase in that, again, as we are, and companies and organizations around the country are experiencing another spike in healthcare inflation. So we will appropriate $400,000 to offset next year's increase, which will help us with next year's budget. We would appropriate $1.2 million to our general fund. $400,000 of that would go towards tax appeals. $400,000 would go to fund our revaluation process, which we have started. As folks know, our reval year is next year, but that process is in full effect right now as we're working with our community and evaluating our commercial and residential properties. And then $400,000 would go towards unsettled contract negotiations. So we're currently in negotiations with our firefighters, as well as our CSEA bargaining units, which includes 1 unit within Public Works, and then all of our non-public safety employees. And that $400,000 would help to offset next year's budget increase as well, to offset any potential salary increases that we would negotiate. And then finally, we would appropriate $200,000 to our utility services fund to help us offset future increases in energy costs as well. And that's a commitment that the council has made year over year to help smooth over any increases that we may see in utility services. So that, again, would help offset next year's budget, potential budget increase as well. So I know that was a lot. I will pause there, and through you, Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council had.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Ms. Pullen, I didn't know if that was in your committee. I don't know if you want to say anything.
I do. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just for the public who's watching and my colleagues around the table, $4.9 million might sound like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. I want to acknowledge that we do have a surplus, a fairly healthy surplus. But when you compare that to the size of our town budget, it's a surplus of 1.4%. I mean, that is just getting us through the budget year without a lot of extra wiggle room. If it had been a few extra snowstorms or some other weather or other emergency event, we might not have ended up with a surplus at all, as it turns out. So I want to acknowledge and thank all of the town staff, particularly in our finance department, who have managed this very well. And I appreciate all of the recommendations as far as how we can make the best use of this $4.9 million, recognizing that the first big chunk does go into our reserve fund, and then how should we spend the rest of that to offset costs in the future without building a hole into next year's budget. And so that's what I think this plan does, and I appreciate all of the work that went into pulling this together. I appreciate our taxpayers for coming in and paying your taxes at a higher rate than we even had anticipated. I would just encourage everyone to support this. It does demonstrate a very strong financial situation for our town. Always fragile, but I think this demonstrates that we have had a good decision-making over the last couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Polina. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Lyons?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the town manager, first of all, I echo Deputy Mayor Poland's comments. Landing a $350-ish million budget on the aircraft carrier is pretty darn hard. You've done it time and time again. But what I'm so impressed about, particularly in this era, is coming out of COVID, these budgets have been really, really difficult. And I know they've been very challenging for you and town staff. I know they've been very challenging for past councils. And most importantly, I think they've been very challenging on our citizens. And yet, year after year, you manage not only to land it on the aircraft, but carrier, I'm sorry, but have a little bit left over to help these compliance issues and help prepare for some of their expenses. So I hope going forward, we've been able to move through some of these increased prices, that sort of things, kind of through the system, swallow them. I know people have lobbied the state delegation on some of these mandates that are perhaps not completely funded, particularly on the education side. So I'm hoping most of the pain, I guess we'll find out in March, April, but hoping most of the pain is behind us. But I can't commend you and staff enough for your work on this massive budget and managing to bring it home this way. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I just want to add that I have been to many rating agency meetings, and our rating, remaining a AAA bond-rated community, is a really important element of how we manage our town. It also is a signal to developers that want to invest in our community. And so it's really, really important not only for us to bond for infrastructure improvements and whatever we decide, whether it's the community center or whatever we decide to approve to invest in, but also it is a sign that we are well managed, and it also is a sign to our taxpayers that their dollars are well spent in a strategic way. And so I just want to make sure that we understand that, of course, it's tempting sometimes to say, let's just, do tax relief for that. But that's, not really the responsible way. There are elements of tax relief in a strategic way, not to dig a hole, as Ms. Poland said, and to bring us to a place of next year being in a responsible situation. So they are oftentimes I hear communities, oh, they only had this increase or that increase, and when you dig into it, oftentimes it is a one use of funds that creates a situation for a future year, and we don't do that. So anyway, any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, H, and we have a little change in seating here. Mr. Dodge is going to recuse himself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And,
Due to the fairly obvious conflict of interest under the rules of professional conduct, I'm prohibited from advising you on this matter, so I'll let
There you
my
go.
deputy Gina take the seat.
Okay, and Deputy Chief Verano will sit in a warm seat. So, all right, letter H, Ms. Poland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt a resolution appointing Dallas C. Dodge as Corporation Counsel.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. So there's a few responsibilities that the town have from an employment perspective. And there are 3 positions that we really are responsible for, setting salaries and for Corporation Counsel, actually, well, Town Manager and Corporation Counsel appointing those positions. So first, obviously, is our Town Manager. Our Town Clerk is elected, but we set the salary for that position, and then our Corporation Counsel. And what's unique about our Corporation Counsel, every town is different. We're set up. I remember when we first were looking for Corporation Counsel, we had a structure that was pretty antiquated, and we were looking at how to compare, and it was really, really hard to do that. There's very few apples to apples. We have professional staff, and I know they work extremely hard, and they do rely on outside counsel for a number of things that they can't handle in-house. We are not a small firm, but we are serving, there's a lot going on. And I actually talk to people that are in law school sometimes and say, this is a very interesting field. You should think about it because it touches on employment and land use and so many contracts and just a tremendous amount of education, a tremendous amount of different aspects of law. But what our corporation counsel role is not just being a lawyer and managing the office of the corporation counsel's office, but managing what we send outside for and keeping those relationships strong and developing a real trust with outside people, not just elected officials in our state government, which our corporation counsel does, but also with firms in the region. So when we ask for help, we are getting the help we need promptly and the quality of the help that we need. I will say we're very lucky to have a corporation counsel that actually sat at this table that understands the dynamic that we go through, and he can advise us. I know that our town manager and I both rely on corporation counsel's office, but our corporation counsel in particular, to advise us on many things at all times of the day, all days of the week. And so we're extremely grateful for all of his incredible work. And I will say that we really looked at the structure right when we were a little before, right around when you were appointed, right? And COVID was a very clear reflection of how important it was to have a really professional, tireless, really caring corporation counsel that is not only from West Hartford, but of West Hartford. So really grateful. That being said, now therefore be it resolved, because again, we set the salary by the way of the Town Council of West Hartford, that Dallas Dodge is hereby appointed to serve Corporation Counsel for a term of 2 years commencing on December 17, 2025, and be it further resolved that the salary of the Corporation Counsel during such term shall be fixed at $96,838 per annum. So if there's any other comments or questions, happy to entertain them. All right, Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no idea if I'm out of line or not. One of the reasons why I coveted and really desired to be on town council is the human side of it. And I sat on zoning. Zoning was all business. Sitting here, I get to tell somebody how much they mean to me. I get to tell somebody how important they are to the town. And this is a time where I get to do that. I've gotten to know Dallas Dodge over the last probably 8 years, and nothing but professional, nothing but putting the town first, and just an incredible asset to our town. And I just felt it really important that I say that and put it on the record and thank him for his service and tell him I don't think it's easy being a town employee or a retained town employee, and I really respect what you do. I respect that you're staying with the town, and I want to thank you for that. So I'm excited to vote in favor of this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Ms. Verano, Attorney Verano.
Madam Mayor, if I just may comment, I think the dollar amounts that you were citing do not align with those that are set forth in the resolution. So the resolution is currently drafted to do one increase in the first year and then a second increase in the second year. And so it's not a fixed number for the entire term. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was the 96 was the ending point, correct?
No, at the end of the second term, it'll be $97,867.
My bad. I was looking at an old, sorry, I apologize. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? I know, right? Okay. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Dallas. Attorney Dodge, and thank you, Attorney Verano, and thank you for correcting that. Let's see. Okay, now we are going to go to the reports for the town manager, but before we do that, we have just flown through about, 20 consent items that are appointments to our commissions, our boards and commissions. And I will say, town clerk's staff works tirelessly to do this they work a lot all during the year, but at the end of the year, when we actually have reappointments or vacancies and terms that have expired, it's an enormous amount of work. So I just want to thank the town clerk and his staff for the tremendous work they do on appointments to boards and commissions, which is so important to the operation of our community. Okay, now over to you, Mr. Ledwith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my very lengthy town manager's report can be found online, but I'll try to be brief and just summarize some of the highlights. Thank you, Renee McHugh, for putting together such a comprehensive report. But I'll start with council business. Our next council meeting will take place on January 13th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. We are working now with each of the standing committee chairs to set our schedule for 2026. So we will, Gerardo Reinheimer in my office will get those calendar invites out to everybody within the next few days that will have the schedule set for 2026. In terms of staff reports, I do want to thank Deputy Mayor Poland for joining us last week at our employee milestone breakfast, and we recognize 104 employees for their milestone years of service ranging from 5 to 45 years. Dean Hool of Elmwood Community Center was recognized for the longest tenure at 45 years, so congrats to Dean. Just as a quick recap, in 2025, the town welcomed 260 new employees, 20 full-time, 22 part-time, and 183 seasonal, as well as 35 election workers, and 9 employees retired last year. So congratulations to all. Let's see. This is unfortunately the last week of leaf bag collection. After December 19th, residents may bring leaves to the yard waste and recycling center or store them until the spring yard waste collection resumes in April of 2026. The Department of Public Works is offering a post-holiday 2-day cardboard and electronics recycling collection on Monday, December 29th, and Tuesday, December 30th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Yard Waste and Recycling Center. Electronic waste is anything with a plug and no Freon. This includes holiday string lights. Electronics and string lights are not allowed in curbside recycling. Please break down cardboard boxes before arriving. No permit is required to drop off cardboard and electronics. A permit would be required for all other items. Please note that the recycling event will be canceled if inclement weather occurs, as DPW crews will be needed to plow and keep our roads safe. If the event is canceled, only permitted vehicles may drop off material. There will be no makeup days. The Department of Public Works will provide 2 town-wide passes to collect Christmas trees starting the week of Monday, January 5th through Friday, January 16th, 2026. Trees would be picked up on your trash collection day. The Association Prevention Professional has named Gretchen Levitz and the West Hartford Prevention Partnership as the Connecticut Coalition of the Year. This recognition reflects the dedication of an incredible team, our youth, schools, volunteers, and community partners who have a shared goal of creating a healthier, safer, and more informed West Hartford. On December 16th, last evening, about 100 West Hartford residents attended the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Wildlife Division's community meeting on bear management to hear public safety concerns on bear activity and to learn coexistence strategies. West Hartford was selected as one of 4 locations in Connecticut to hold this listening tour. If you missed the meeting, you can watch it on West Hartford Community's YouTube channel. Governor Ned Lamont and Connecticut Transportation Commissioner Garrett Uccelito have announced on November 17th that the state of Connecticut awarded $12 million in grants to 17 towns and cities for projects that will improve transportation safety and mobility. West Hartford will receive a $384,000 grant to construct a bicycle connector from the Trout Brook Trail to West Hartford Center. So very excited about that. reception of that grant and the upcoming construction of that connection between the trail and the center. On Sunday, November 16th, 24 residents graduated from the West Hartford Community Emergency Response Team CERT Basic Training Program. CERT teams from North Granby, East Windsor, and Southington also participated in the training, helping to strengthen regional relationships that can be used during disasters. Since its inception in spring of 2021, the West Hartford CERT program has trained over 354 residents and contributed more than 12,000 hours of volunteer service to the community. The team meets monthly at the Elmwood Community Center to maintain their skills and readiness. That concludes my summary of the town manager's report this evening. Madam Mayor, happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ledwith. Are there questions for Mr. Walters?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. One question I have regarding the Trout Brook Trail connector to the center. Is the design work already done for that, or what are we looking for time frame?
So we would, I'll check and get back to you on the exact date. We have not designed it quite yet, so our engineering team will work on that design. I know we are milling and paving Farmington Ave from Trout Brook to the center this year, so it'll be part of that process. So after that milling and paving occurs, we would implement and include that connector between Trout Brook and the center. But I'll get some more information from our team and get it back to the council.
No, I thank you. I mean, it looks like we're looking at more sooner than later to have it.
2026, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great news. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Wayne?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Ledwith, for that report, but especially for this information about the Trout Brook Trail Connector. It's going to be really huge in terms of promoting active transportation in our town. It's really a missing link in our bike network that has been very successful the last couple of years we've done on Center Street, so just very excited, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. I agree. All right. Anything else? Mr. Walters?
Well, I thank you, and through you. For other announcements, were you going to make your announcements? Then I'll wait until
Yes.
after that.
Okay.
But I did want to make one last thing, and you referenced the appointments, and I do want to acknowledge that we do have one appointment here in the room who came down and to watch, Mario Volpe. Thank you for coming down and watching. I know that it can be anticlimactic, but I wanted to acknowledge him. Thanks.
And Mario was actually appointed as a council alternate, so he might be sitting at this table someday soon. So thank you for your service, and thank you to everybody that volunteers, just not only at this table. And yeah, anyway, well, Mr. Ledwith, is all set? Okay, I'll say something else, but Corporation Counsel, Mr. Dodge, do you have any?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to be back. Madam Mayor, thank you again for the reappointment. It really is a privilege to serve as legal counsel to all of you and to the town. I did just want to take one moment you mentioned, Madam Mayor, some of the outsourcing. We actually outsource very little of what we do in our office, and I want to thank my staff, Deputy Corporation Counsel Gina Verano and Assistant Corporation Counsel Cynthia Latour, who are two of the best municipal attorneys in Connecticut, as well as our paralegal, Andrea Golino. I'm constantly amazed. Gina is a transactional attorney. She's a litigator. Gina and Cynthia, they have to serve as transactional attorneys, litigators, occasionally trust and estates lawyers. It's really an incredible breadth of work that they do. And one of the things I'm proudest of is we always try to say that we aren't just providing legal advice. We're prouder when we're providing legal counsel. We're doing a client a disservice when we just provide the black letter law. We want to counsel them through the practical, political consequences of the decisions that they're working through. And Gina and Cynthia really excel at that. They are overworked, but I really appreciate the work that they do, and this office couldn't run without them. Madam Mayor, with that being said, we have no requirement for a executive session this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Judge, and thank you. I didn't mean to mislead by saying a lot goes outside. You do so much inside. It just so happens that we oftentimes at executive session. Anyway, all right. Thank you, and thank you so much to Attorney Barano. Appreciate all that you do. All right. Any questions for Mr. Dodge? Okay, seeing none, going to appointments. I know a couple of people at the table that already have made nominations for the Earl Exum Servant Leader Award. This is West Hartford's Martin Luther King Celebration Committee that seeks nominations. A servant leader is an individual who focuses on serving others, fostering a supportive environment, and empowering people to grow. To nominate someone, there is a link on this, either the website or my the announcements by December 19th. So it's just a couple days away. So eligible nominees are West Hartford residents or those with a business organization or nonprofit based in town. Volunteers are needed for the West Hartford Greater Together Community Fund. If you know of people that would like to make a difference, please ask them to look into this. It is a really remarkable fund from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, which now is, I don't remember the, yeah, Greater Hartford Together. And so something like that. Yeah, I think it's different than that, but okay. Anyway, they make an incredible difference and support a lot of our nonprofits and really are amazing. And you can really help make those decisions. So if you know somebody, appreciate the names. Signups for a Parent Leadership Training Institute are now being accepted. This is an in-person, free 20-session initiative that provides training in leadership, advocacy, and civic skills, open to parents, caregivers, grandparents, any adult who wants to make a positive impact on children and family. Classes begin January 17th and run through June 3rd. They're Wednesdays 6 to 9 at Charter Oak. School-age children, there is childcare for 4+, and free dinner is provided for all participants. To apply to the program, there is also a link, and Catherine Dean is the director of that. Nominations are sought for the class of 2026 Amateur Baseball Hall of Fame. If you'd like to nominate somebody, there is a link, and you can do that. Comedy night at Playhouse on Park, January 3rd, 90 minutes of laughs. That will be really great after the holidays to laugh off some treats, maybe. Tickets are $23.50, and all seats are reserved. Doors open 30 minutes before the show, and it begins at 8 p.m. Buried Treasures, the Town of West Hartford Social Services is offering a free 16-week support group to help residents who want to get rid of clutter. Starting on January 6th, the group meets Tuesdays from 1 to 2:25 at Town Hall, and you can call. There's numbers on the website. I just want to also say we miss some of our colleagues who have left. Mr. Cortez would always talk about drives for food or diapers at his church, at the Methodist Church on New Britain Avenue. But the food pantry, when kids are out of school and they're not getting free breakfasts or lunches, it is really important for our families to have support. So not just up till, through the holidays, but January on is also really, really important. Our Town That Cares really would welcome any monetary donations so they can fill in holes where needed, and then they also provide fuel assistance, and it has been a cold winter so far. So any contributions, any gifts you want to make to anybody that might be in a form of a donation, it would be sincerely appreciated. And there's been some really wonderful philanthropy. Liberty Bank just donated $10,000 through the Town That Cares joint with Rotary on Monday, which was really terrific. So any other announcements? Ms. McGinnis.
It's not really an announcement, but I just wanted to thank the Public Works staff for how well they did with the snow that we had on Sunday. I just noticed driving to the Fire and Ice, how great the roads were and the great job they did around Town Hall so people could walk around. And I know it takes a lot of work and they spend a lot of time away from their families this time of year when we have snowstorms, but they did a really, really good job.
Thank you, Ms. McGinnis. And oftentimes when we don't hear anything, they are doing the best job because honestly, and they get very little back. And so appreciate that. And it is a lot of work. And Sunday was a really difficult day for them. They had a lot to do. So any other comments, questions? Mr. Lyons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my first meeting, and I'm incredibly excited to be here. I'm incredibly excited to get to work with all of you. But we've got a couple of big days between now and our next meeting, only one meeting in December. So I just want to say to everybody here, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, whatever your holiday is. I hope you celebrate it in peace with family and loved ones. Happy New Year, and I'm excited to roll up my sleeves and West Hartford's great, but make it even better. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. You took my words, but I'm going to say it again. That's okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. I just want to wish everybody a very healthy and happy holiday season and wishing you joy, peace, love, and laughter. And I hope it's warm. And I do want to just actually extend condolences to Mr. Ledwith because Tara's father passed away, and he will be heading to the funeral tomorrow. So our thoughts are with you tonight. So, oh no, okay, go. All right, thank you, bye.
I'm sorry, Rick.
All right, we are, without objection, I make a motion, we adjourn. Any objection? We are now adjourned, thank you.